Here we go with another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. I'm Steve Gamache, and what we're looking at this time is the Masutani VG-1 Santoku 170mm knife. This knife line has a core steel of VG-1 full stainless steel. Heat treats around 60 Rockwell on that core steel. The construction is 3 layers, so this is a softer stainless cladding on either side of that core steel for a 3-layer sandwich, as I tend to say. Looks like the cladding does come over the top of the spine as well. So they've got some hammered finish marks on that as well for an interesting aesthetic. And right now I think this is one of the best values on the Chef Knives to Go site, and I'll talk more about that as we go along. The weight on this knife is 137 grams or 4.8 ounces. Edge length is about 170 millimeters or 6.7 inches. And the overall length is about 295 millimeters or 11.6 inches. Blade height at the heel is about 47 millimeters, so you got enough height for plenty of board clearance. And then the spine thickness coming out of the bolster, it pretty much just stays the same at 1.7 millimeters all the way down the knife. So it's a fairly thin blade. Not a lot of distal taper, but you get quite thin with the grind, and the very, very tip is quite thin, and this tip really works well through soft product. This is a very, very good performing knife. The aesthetic is really cool. So you've got a generous grind. If I can get a good beauty shot here. So you can see the core steel peeking through. You can see a little bit of a shiny edge bevel there. You've got pretty generous grind. The grinds are pretty consistent, nice all the way through. The knife's very straight. Looks like about a 50-50 grind to me, eyeballing it with the ruler. You've got an aesthetically pretty cool hammered finish on it. So the right side of the blade has an embossed kanji. It kind of has a sort of a chiseled look to it, but it's not chiseled. So they've done a nice job keeping the cost down, but making it look pretty cool. So on first glance, it looks like, hey, that might be chiseled kanji, but it's not. But it is embossed in there. The left side of the blade, as you're holding it, is plain. Another good look at that. So you've got your edge bevel there, core steel, and cladding. Fit and finish is really quite surprisingly good on this. I really didn't know what to expect at this price point, but they've done a great job on these. The spine has a little bit of relief to it, although you could probably do a little more if you wanted to. The choil has a little bit of relief to it as well. I did not feel the need using this to, smooth those out, although you could. Pretty nice out of the box edge. I'd say good 6 out of 10. Very tiny bevel. They almost ground it, convex it down to almost a 0 grind. I went ahead and sharpened this just to get a feel for it, and I thought it sharpened up pretty easily. It seems to take a pretty nice edge, but I've added a small bevel on that and kind of relieve that edge just a little bit. But it's quite sharp out of the box. I'd say you could take it and just start using it. They've, on the handle, they've got a rosewood handle. I think it almost looks stabilized to me, but the nice thing they've done is to lighten that up. They've done a partial tang. So the tang stops right in there, and I would assume it kind of comes in this way and back around again, and you've got your rivets there. But that lightens up the handle quite significantly. It's also very comfortable. You don't have any tang sticking out on the bottom or the rear of the top over time to kind of get proud and stick out a little bit. So that's kind of cool from a longevity standpoint. Very, very comfortable handle. Not especially large, but it pretty much just fits this size knife. That brings the balance point back up a little bit from where it might be with a full tang, and brings it up to a reasonable point there, just a little bit in front of that choil. And so it's a pretty nice neutral grip balance point for a regular racket grip or a pinch grip. So kind of a lightweight, definitely very nimble knife. The performance, as I said, is really excellent on this. It goes through stuff very, very well. And here it's pretty thin at the edge. Got a nice edge profile. We'll look at that. Clean grinds. It's just a nice package. So here's the edge profile, and I think it's just an excellent all-around profile. Not especially curvy, not especially flat. You've got a little bit of back belly towards the heel, so when you rock it or slide it or glide it, it just kind of flows into a back area there, but doesn't hit a hard stop. Fairly low tip, so I'm not going to get real high on this, but I can get really pretty high for, carrots, scallions, small to kind of medium small stuff, no problem at all. It is definitely smooth for push-pull cuts, gliding, rocking, low rocking. So not a pure chopper, but most Santoku knives are not. So this knife is just a pleasure to use. The VG-1 steel cuts down on the cost some. It isn't quite as nice on edge retention and such as, like, let's say VG-10, but it's a good quality steel. It'll sharpen up more easily than a lot of steels at this price point, and it's just a great value. So if you're looking for a knife for a gift or for an extra knife around the house, if you're a knife hound like a lot of us and you want something that other people can use that's a little bit softer and you don't worry too much if they do something to it, this would be a great choice. Or you just want a spare knife around, travel knife, got a second house, whatever. It's a really cool knife. And personally, it's an excellent performing knife. So I've been recommending these to people I know that might be in the market for something that's good quality but very reasonably priced. So this is the Masutani VG-1 Santoku 170 millimeter knife.